Hey everyone, it's Kristen, and this month's Mystic Craft is an astrology flip study guide. So I'm going to just show you how to put together the base. But first of all, what you're going to find in the classroom is some pieces to this that you want to print out on some cardstock and maybe laminate it. So just to show you, like I said, in the classroom, I've already created some cards for the planets, for the zodiac signs, and for the houses. So you can use these that I've created, print them out on some cardstock, and I've laminated these just to make them a little bit sturdier. And these are what we're going to put onto this flip guide. These are going to be the things that we actually flip. So right now I'm just going to show you how to make the base. So besides having those cards printed out, you're also going to need some book rings. You'll need 3 of them. You're going to need a regular hole punch, just kind of a standard hole punch. You'll need some sort of glue. I like this Scotch roller adhesive. You could also use like some double-sided tape as well. And you're going to need some cardstock to make the base. I'm using just this black cardstock. You're going to need 2 or 3 sheets of cardstock. Now, let me explain why. You're going to make 2 parts. You're going to have a top part of the base and a bottom part of the base. For the top part, if your cardstock is not super thick, you probably want to use 2 pieces of cardstock just for sturdiness. And then you'll just need a half of a piece of cardstock for the base. And I'm using a regular 8.5 by 11. I think that one works. That size works very well with the sizes of those astrology cards. So, and you could use a scoreboard like I have too. I think it's easy since we're going to be folding the cardstock. This is just a really easy tool to use. So you're just going to take half. You want to just score in half whatever size paper that you want to use. And you can, of course, make the astrology cards smaller or bigger, larger if you want. And then your base would have to be a little bit larger as well. So you're just going to do your scoring. And I'll put the measurements in the classroom for you. But essentially, we're just doing half of everything. And so I've just taken this, again, like in portrait mode, and then you're just scoring it in half. So if you're using 8.5 by 11, then you would be doing it, 4 1/4. And you want to do this with two pieces of cardstock, and then you're going to just put them together. So they should look like, let's see. They should look like this. So you've got just 2 pieces, and you're just going to put them together. And then you're going to glue them in place, or use some sort of adhesive or tape them in place. You do want to be careful, though, not really putting glue right at the top, maybe like an inch from the top, because we're going to be punching holes there. So this is one that I've already done. If you'll be able to see, but this is 2 pieces of cardstock together. And I've already made 3 little areas for where the holes will be. And this is going to be at 2 inches, 5.5 inches, and 9 inches. And you can see where I've put the little areas for the holes. You can come down a little bit farther than that. You don't want to put the holes too close to the edge because you don't want it to rip through the top. But somewhere approximately here or a little bit lower is probably going to work well. So I'm just going to hole punch these really quickly. So I'm punching through 2 pieces of cardstock. Well, I guess technically 4, but we've already glued the cardstock together. And this part doesn't really have to be perfect or anything like that. But, you know, something like this. Now, this is the top part of the base. We have to do the base of the base, which will go right into this empty spot. So you're going to take another piece of paper, or rather another piece of cardstock, and this time, instead of scoring it at the halfway mark, you're actually going to cut it out. So you want to cut this paper in half. So you'll have this, and then we're going to score this piece. So we're just going to do, again, we're just going to do half of your half. And if you're using a scoreboard, you can just turn it over. I think it's easier to do it that way. So we scored this part just in the middle. Let's do that so you can see it. And so it stands up like a little tent. And then I'm just going to turn it over because we're going to score it again in 2 more places. And we're going to actually fold it in the opposite direction. Now, for this scoring, we're going to score on either side. But how, I don't necessarily want to give you a measurement for this because it really is based on what you're using for your adhesive. This adhesive roller is relatively thin compared to the double-sided tape. So if I was using double-sided tape, I would need an area that was wide enough to hold this tape. I hope this makes sense. Since I'm going to use my adhesive roller, though, I'm going to do a smaller area. And then just do the same amount of room on the opposite side. Okay, so what you have, again, we did the fold on the opposite side, and now what we're going to do is take those edges that we just scored, and we're going to turn them up the opposite way. So again, the width of these depends on the width of your adhesive or your tape or whatever you're going to use. If you can, make it as small as possible. Well, let me just say, make it doesn't have to be smaller than this width, but it doesn't have to be super, super wide. Okay, so what you have is a little tent with the edges folded up. And I'm going to show you something, just how we would put it together. So we've got our top piece of the base, and then we've got our bottom piece of the base. So I want to show you with the smaller project how to put these two together. Essentially, we're going to take this and we're going to put this over the top. And I'm just going to show you with one that I've made. This one isn't for an astrology flip guide, but you can use the same process to, create any type of little flip book like this. This one I'm using with Lenormand cards. So if you turn it this way, you can see that you take those two tints, the top and then that bottom, and they both point upward. The top part goes over top. I don't know if you can see, I did the base just in black, and then the bottom piece in black. And the top piece I have some colored cardstock. And so that smaller piece that goes on the bottom, I hope you can see this in here, those little flaps that we made go on the inside. So the little flaps go on the inside. So I'm just going to put down some paper so I can glue this. And so where I want to glue is along this edge on both sides. I'm just turning it over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and remember, the tint is still in the middle, so it's still pointed upward. I'm going to take this tint and I'm going to put it over top. And I like to just do one side at a time. So I'm just going to lay this on top of here. So that those edges meet, and we're just going to fold that down and then turn it around and do the same thing. Now usually what you can do is lay this down and then just fold this right on top. Again, just making sure that the edges meet. And then you can just press it down. And I find that this adhesive works really well. I haven't had any problems with it. I've done quite a few of these now. And so now you have your sturdy base. Let's get that out of the way. So there's the top. I don't know if you'll be able to see all the middle. But see, we have the bottom part of the base attached to the top, and we're almost done. Next, we're just going to take our rings, and we're just going to put the rings on and attach whatever it is you want to attach. So you could put your astrology study guide here, but again, you can also make something on your own, like I did with the Lenormand cards. I have a vintage photo flip book too that I've done. It's all based on this same concept. So I'm just putting these in order. We're going to put the planets first, then the signs, and then the houses. So once you print them out, you just want to take and your same hole punch and punch a hole at the top of these. Okay. You can see I've just done a little hole at the top, just leaving a little bit of room at the top. You put your ring in, and then you can put your cards on, and then just close up the ring. I find that some book rings are really tight, like this one is. Let me see if I can get that one on. Some of them are really loose, some of them are tight. Can't quite get that one on this time, but I will play with it and get it loosened up or find another book ring. And you can find book rings almost anywhere. They usually come in sets in different sizes. I prefer this small, like smallest size. I just think they're easier to use, but you can find some that are bigger. If you want to make something that has a lot of these cards, then you might need a bigger book ring. But now we have our astrology flip study guide. So you can just go to, like, flip a planet, a sign, and a house, and hopefully get some insights. First of all, I think this is great just for studying. So these are really the basic building blocks for understanding astrology, is the planets, the signs, and the houses. So once you have a good handle on these, I think it'll be really easy to, maybe not easy, but it'll be easier to read your chart and things like that. And so I'm going to give you some tips in the classroom for how to use your astrology flip study guide.